I think we have a great program for you tonight, and we are grateful that Lee Pelton and Suzanne Kulik are here with us this evening. Welcome, Lee, and welcome, Suzanne. Along with Lynn Griesmer, Laura Vandenberg, our Chancellor, former UMDI Executive Director Eric Heller, Representative Natalie Blais, and we're also very grateful that Megan Berg is here with us tonight. We appreciate Megan and her team, including Brianna Wales at the Community Foundation of Western Massachusetts, for agreeing to co-host and co-sponsor tonight's important event. So let me invite Megan to the stage to share a few remarks. Megan?
I'm not going to do that at the end, just so everyone knows. Thanks very much, Johan. It's great to be here tonight. I'm glad we all, the weather cooperated and we were all able to come together. So good evening, everyone. Thank you to Chancellor Reyes and all the staff of UMass Amherst for hosting this event here, and to Johan and his team from the Donahue Institute for bringing us all together. It's exciting to see a room filled with folks from all across the country and also lots of folks from right here. And it's nice to have the new ideas coming in and sharing those among us. It's really an honor to be here this evening among recognized public service leaders from our community, including Representative Natalie Blais, and from across the Commonwealth, notably tonight's honoree, Dr. Lee Pelton of the Boston Foundation. As the Community Foundation of Western Massachusetts, we are committed to serving the public. For us, this includes all residents of Franklin, Hampshire, and Hampden counties. Like the Boston Foundation, which you'll probably hear more about later, we believe the best way to serve the public is to advance opportunity and more equitable outcomes for all residents of our region. We are passionate about using all resources at our disposal to support Western Massachusetts families, to provide their children with a strong start, to make sure adults are able to complete post-secondary training and education as a path to family-sustaining wages, and to connect all artists to the resources they need to create and contribute to our thriving creative economy. We are forthright in our efforts to advance diversity and equity in all workplaces, starting with our own. We believe that achieving these outcomes will require systemic change, including policy change, and will benefit our entire community. Bringing about these changes will only be possible in collaboration with committed public servants, including all of you who are here tonight. Many of you who are working to prepare our next generation of public service leaders. Thank you for your work and for considering ways to work together to make Western Massachusetts a more inclusive and thriving community for all.
Thank you again, Megan. We are so grateful for our partnership. Now, it's my honor now to invite Lynn Griesmer, former UMDI Executive Director, to the stage to share some remarks on behalf of the Amherst Town Council. Lynn? Thanks so much for being here.
I'm an example of what happens when your grant runs out. So, it's great to be here. I want to welcome all of those that are here from CUPSO. I remember when we first joined CUPSO, it was like, oh, you mean there's others out there like us? And then Eric Heller, who followed me as executive director of the Institute, went to a CUPSO meeting and he came back and he said, oh my God, they talk like us. They talk about the same kinds of things we talk about. So it's very important. And I understand many of you have had an opportunity today to make presentations, Rod, and others on our staff here. So I did retire from the Institute in 2018 and decided to follow a political life. And at that point, became a member of our Amherst Town Council, of which I've been president ever since then. Public life and political life is not easy. Natalie, where are you? Yeah, there you go. It's filled with things like, where do you stand on Gaza? And where do you stand on issues like LGBTQ and anti-Semitism, and you name it, it's out there. On behalf of the town of Amherst, where only the H is silent, I want to welcome you to Amherst. Thank you.
I'm getting some exercise in here tonight. Adjust for the height. Now, it is truly my pleasure to introduce Laura Vandenberg, who will welcome you and introduce our Chancellor this evening. Dr. Vandenberg is the Acting Vice Chancellor of Research and Engagement, but also a Professor of Environmental Health Sciences at the University of Massachusetts here on our Amherst campus. The Donahue Institute is one of the, I think, 60-plus institutes and centers that Laura oversees. But I must say, in the time that she and I have had a chance to work together, it's been a wonderful partnership, and we are so grateful for your ongoing support and your assistance in so many ways to make it possible for the Institute to flourish here on campus. Laura?
I was just thinking that, COVID affected so many of those niceties that we used to do, the handshaking and the hugging. It's nice to have that back. Not that COVID's gone, but life has changed. It's really lovely to be here this evening and to have the honor to be able to introduce our Chancellor to you. But first, I wanted to take just 2 minutes to reflect on who you are and how what you bring here really reflects what the Donahue Institute is doing, what CUPSO is doing, and what UMass is trying to do, which is to support work that really has an impact. I think just talking to some of you either this morning, prior to the conference starting, and also here at the reception, what's very clear is that the folks in this room value work that can impact individuals, families, community, or all of society. And that what you have learned is that often the vehicle to be able to protect people, to advocate for people, to be able to address where do you stand is through policy. And that policy is a way to have an impact that goes beyond the person to communities, to society, to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Here at UMass Amherst, we ask people to balance research, teaching, and service. And in fact, in my conversations this evening and this morning, what I've heard is about how you bring to your own universities, to your own organizations, a commitment to balancing the generation of new knowledge, the training of new practitioners, and new people who work in either the public or the private sector, but also a deep and earnest commitment to service. And I think that kind of says it all. It helps us to answer, where do you stand? And it helps us when we have to think about, when I tally myself up at the end of the day, am I doing work that's work for the common good? And I think the people in this room, maybe more than any other room I get to stand in, are doing work that truly is for the common good. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you the Chancellor of our great university, Chancellor Javier Reyes. He is the 12th Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts Amherst. He is an economist. He's also the first Hispanic leader to serve as the Chancellor of UMass Amherst. And you can read about his bio in the booklet that was provided to you, but just a few highlights prior to his time here at UMass Amherst. He was the Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at the University of Illinois Chicago, and then served as the interim chancellor there. And he was also a dean at the College of Business and Economics at West Virginia University. I think that what you're going to hear from our chancellor is a university's commitment to doing good work, for doing work for the good of the people, and for doing work that is for the good of the mind. Because some of what we do because it's the right thing to do. So it's my great pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Javier Reyes.
Very good. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here with all of you. And I have to say that for those that were coming from warmer weathers, we ordered this day especially for you. It was something that we knew that you wanted to see: a little snow, a little bit of cold weather, a little bit of spring in New England. So it was just, we gave it to you all in the span of 2 days. So it cost a fortune. I'm going to be passing that receipt to the Donahue Institute about it. But truly, thank you for being here, and thank you for just working with us in this volatile weather that we had today on the campus. But hopefully you got to see the hospitality of our teams, the hospitality of our campus. Yes, we have the #1 food in the nation in a university campus, and hopefully you got to see that too. So if you can help me give them a round of applause, I would appreciate it. And I would, as you go to the night, I always do this when we host an event at the house of the chancellor. I always ask our students to introduce themselves, whether they are the student ambassadors, they're the students that are working with dining, they're the students that are there for the event. And I ask them to introduce themselves. I'm not going to ask them to introduce themselves here tonight, but I do want to tell you that there's a lot of our students roaming around the room who are providing with you some of the food here, or they're providing you with your name tag at the entrance. Ask them about what's their major. Ask them about what comes next. I always tell the students that this is an environment in which they can learn to network. They can learn to talk about themselves in a very safe environment, because any event that is happening in this university, it happens for them. It's in their best interest. It's part of their learning experience. So this is a safe environment where they can be asked, hey, tell me what you do, tell me what's your major, what comes next. And they'll really start coming out of their shells in many cases. Sometimes they'll really come out of their shell and tell you about what their life dreams are. And they are incredible. So thank you for your patience when that happens. But I would say first, I would like to extend a special welcome to our ceremony co-sponsor, the Community Foundation of Western Massachusetts, who's represented by President and CEO Megan Burke, who I saw here. Where's Megan? Very good, Megan. Thank you, thank you. As well as thank you, Representative Natalie Blay, who's always here and a great advocate for us. So thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Lynn Grismer, someday you're going to tell me how to pronounce exactly your name, Lynn. Where are you? Very good. President of Amherst Town Council and a former executive director of the UMass Amherst Donahue Institute, and someone that I consider a friend, a partner, and a collaborator as we really tackle on all the big opportunities that we have in the region. And Eric Heller, former executive director of the UMass Amherst Donahue Institute. Where's Eric? Very good. Thank you for being here. Thank you all of you for being here and for your continued support. As a land-grant university and as the flagship campus of the Commonwealth, which many of those universities here represented tonight this identifies with your own identity. We have a fundamental mission is that of the public good, and servicing the public good. Advancing research and knowledge for the betterment of our shared society is critical to be able to have that on our mission. But the reality is that it doesn't happen on its own. It's UMass Amherst faculty and researchers who are the stewards of the discovery and innovation and the efforts in our campus that make that happen. The research conducted in our laboratories is used to provide real-world solutions to some of the Commonwealth's most pressing issues. Issues such as climate change, clean energy, and sustainable food production. Our faculty engage in a broad range of community-based research. For example, UMass Energy Transition Institute and its associated PhD fellowship program, Elevating Equity Values in the Transition of the Energy System, that we call, it's too long of a term, we call ELEVATE, conduct stakeholders engaged research with people in local communities that have been traditionally excluded. And I want to repeat that because I think that as much as we work on energy transition, the important aspect of this effort is to work in stakeholder engaged research with people in local communities that have been traditionally excluded. It's important to ensure that we are looking for equity in everything we do. Their goal is to both empower community members with information about the transition to renewable energy, as well as to listen to community perspectives that help inform the research of our faculty and our researchers. Faculty and students in our Department of Landscape Architecture and Regional Planning work with local communities on research aimed at developing more beautiful, healthy, livable neighborhoods and regions. And I want to really repeat that part because we really mean it. More beautiful, healthy, livable neighborhoods and regions. All regions, not just some of them. That is an important aspect. For example, our LARP faculty and students work in close partnership with the City of Springfield's Office of Planning and Economic Development on a range of projects designed to make the city more livable. They helped establish the Make It Springfield, a downtown community makerspace that provides missing social infrastructure for people of all ages, designed urban public spaces such as parks, trails, and have helped to envision a new transit-oriented neighborhood adjacent to Springfield's Union Station Transit Hub. And UMass faculty and researchers across multiple disciplines are working in partnership with community organizations and health centers to study the power of food to promote health and reduce chronic illnesses, food as medicine. This includes partnering in 3 separate produce prescription programs supported by the United States Department of Agriculture to aim to promote healthy eating, reduce food insecurity, and lower healthcare costs. And I still want to repeat, promote healthy eating, reduce food insecurity, and lower healthcare costs for everyone. That is an important aspect of their focus. These are just a few examples of how UMass faculty and research are served our great community. UMass Amherst also serves the public good by preparing the Commonwealth's future workforce and future leaders. Our students don't just work towards a degree. They work towards developing personal, professional, and career pathways and gaining the knowledge and competencies needed to succeed. The College of Social Behavioral Sciences, UMass Women into Leadership program, is a leadership training and professional development program that prepares students for careers in government and public service. Is a great example of this. We just had that event last week here, and I can tell you that I could not have walked into a room more energized. And not only because we had students that were going through a program, but the number of graduates from that program that came back, and the number of state representatives and leaders in our public sector came back. Oh boy. I mean, I wish you could bottle that energy and you couldn't tap it when you need it. It was incredible. So our faculty and our staff are committed to improving the lives of those we serve and having positive impact in the Commonwealth. This commitment is embodied by the public service-driven mission of the UMass Amherst Donahue Institute. The Donahue Institute works tirelessly to advance equity, social justice, foster healthy communities, and promote inclusive economies through research, civic education, training, and workforce development. This work is commendable. I would like to say one more thing. one thing that we're working at UMass Amherst that I think COPSA would love to know and hear about is we're stitching all these efforts together in this university in a different way. In the next chapter of UMass Amherst, what you will see is a lot of these efforts that are driven by the Donahue Institute and are driven by centers and institutes across our university will be stitched together in a different way to shine a light on each other, to work collaboratively, to support our faculty, to support our students, to impact our communities. We're going to do that in a more organized fashion. We have a lot of resources that are flowing through the Donahue Institute as well as other centers. It's time for those resources to work collaboratively and have a lot of impact together, empowering our faculty and our community to address those challenges and opportunities that they're seeing in their surroundings. It's going to be not only us trying to bring services to a community, but it's having that community bring questions to the university through all our centers. And the Donahue Institute has provided incredible examples of impact and how you can do things in the right way. We're going to use their expertise to empower our faculty, for other centers to learn and work together in collaboration, because we're all here to serve the Commonwealth, and we're all here to provide that pipeline of talent to the Commonwealth and the world. So, now, I think that tonight's honorees also embody this exact commitment. I'd like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to Emily Pelton on this well-deserved recognition. I had the pleasure of getting to know you. I had the pleasure of having a conversation with you. And the impact that you had in that conversation of showing me the legacy that you have had and the impact that you and your organization have is incredible. And I made a promise to you that we're going to do our homework and we're going to come back and have a conversation with you. And I'll make up on that. I'll make good on that promise. Believe me. But it's great to have you, and congratulations on being honored tonight. We can give him a round of applause, please. I would also like to posthumously recognize former Representative Stephen Kulik for his deep commitment to public service. And I would like to thank Suzanne Kulik for joining us tonight. Where's Suzanne? I did not get to know Stephen Kulik, but I have a feeling that just in the conversation I had today of the incredible impact that he has had and the incredible legacy that he left with us. So thank you for being here tonight, and our respects to him, and that we honor him with tremendous pride, and that we know that this legacy will be continued through our efforts as well. So thank you for being here tonight. Finally, I would like to thank UMass Amherst Donahue Institute, the Community Foundation of Western Massachusetts, and everyone who supports this important work. It is an honor to be part of this community. And when I say this community, I don't mean only UMass Amherst and the community in the Pioneer Valley of the Commonwealth. I mean the COPSO community that is all represented here today. Because as some people were saying back there, when they went to they got to see them, hopefully there's a couple of individuals that yesterday, I think it was, they were going up the elevator and they were harassed by a guy that was just asking me, so what are you doing on the campus? And just kept asking them questions about, so what's COPSO? And I knew what COPSO, but I wanted to hear from them. And in the end, they look at me like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? And I didn't mention that I was a chancellor that was going to speak here tonight or anything. So, but I just asked them questions. But it was great to hear from them that the community of practice that you have, that you see yourselves as really support for each other. And that a lot of my remarks today talk to the community engagement, the empowering of the community to solve some issues, was from that, I would say, 30 to 90-second elevator ride that for some of them, I'm sure looked like a decade when I was asking questions. So thank you very much for being here tonight, and thank you for having us, and thank you for hosting this event at UMass Amherst. You can come back anytime. We will welcome you with open arms. Thank you.
Thank you. We so appreciate your leadership and your ability to inspire us to go places where we have never gone as a campus community. So I find it energizing and inspiring, and I hope you do as well. So, but thank you for your leadership. I'm going to transition us now to the part of the program where we honor Steve Kulik. And I'm going to invite former Institute Executive Director Eric Heller and subsequently Representative Natalie Blais to facilitate this part of the program. And Eric and Natalie, please join us on stage.
Thank you, Johan. And thank you for inviting me to be part of the nomination committee for the Public Service Award and this privilege of participating in this special event. In my post-retirement, there couldn't be a better way for me personally to stay connected with the Donahue Institute than through this activity. It's been very, very gratifying. I want to take a minute to greet my old CUPSO buddies. That fateful meeting that I went to, and I really went to so that we could say to Linda finally, you know, it's really not for us, stop bothering us every year. That was 7 years ago in Delaware. And no, Lynn, I didn't wait till I got back. It was the first day I got there. Within an hour, I called you and said, we're joining, right? And it is so gratifying that 7 years later, the University of Massachusetts and the Donahue Institute are hosting you here on campus. Like the Chancellor, I am thrilled that you've been able to come to this beautiful part of the state at the height of the gorgeous spring season that we have here. So, tonight we celebrate public service, and we celebrate those who share a deep commitment to bringing their wisdom, knowledge, and their skills to bear on the needs of others. We all know that those who seek to participate in public service activities do so in a whole variety of forms and manners. Many of us find opportunities simply through extracurricular volunteer efforts. There are others that maybe set aside a chapter or a phase of their career to doing work in the public good. But then there are those particular individuals for whom public service is truly a lifelong calling. Those who essentially dedicate the totality of their professional life to finding ways to preserve and enhance the quality of life for communities and individuals. It was the unanimous view of the Public Service Award Committee that there could not be a more fitting, recent, local exemplar of that dedication than looking at the illustrious career of the late Stephen Kulik. Stephen served in the Massachusetts legislature for 25 years as state representative for the 1st Franklin District here in Western Massachusetts, first being elected in 1993 and continuously serving in that position until his retirement in 2019. The 1st Franklin is one of the most rural districts in the Commonwealth. Throughout his legislative career, Stephen was known as a dedicated advocate for the unique needs of the residents of the many predominantly small towns scattered across the few hundred square miles that make up the district. But his public service career began long before he joined the legislature. In 1976, the Kuliks settled here in Western Massachusetts in the little town of Worthington. And it was just a short 3 years later that Stephen was already elected to his first public position as a member of the town's planning board. 4 years later, he was elected to the select board, a position he held continually for 10 years until he joined the state legislature. While serving on the select board, he became increasingly active in numerous regional and statewide organizations, promoting the interests of municipal government and especially small towns. He served as president of the Massachusetts Select Board Association and the Massachusetts Municipal Association. He was a Hampshire County Commissioner and was a founding board member of the Hilltown Community Development Corporation. Steve brought a particularly broad rural perspective to the Massachusetts legislature and was equally known for his concern and effectiveness addressing constituent needs and services. Some of the notable policies that he sponsored included expanding broadband internet access for rural areas, co-creating the Food Policy Council, and establishing the Land Conservation Tax Credit. He was proud to support landmark state bills for universal health care and the legalization of same-sex marriage. Steve eventually became vice chair of Ways and Means in the House, and he started the Legislative Rural Caucus. Regionally, he served on the Council of State Governments Executive Committee and was a member of the State Agricultural and Rural Leaders Organization. In his own words, from an interview conducted just prior to his passing in late 2022, "I guess how I would like most to be remembered is that I brought a sense of how the political structure in the state didn't necessarily have to ignore our part of the state. That if we had legislators working together as a coalition, we could get a lot of stuff done. Being a part of that coalition was really important to me because I think the best results are collaborative, and they result in such long-lasting benefits for people."
Uh-oh.
When Stephen retired from the state legislature in 2019, he clearly left behind some very big shoes to be filled. Fortunately for the residents of the 1st Franklin District, and for the Commonwealth as a whole, I would say, in the subsequent election, those shoes were filled by Natalie Blais, the district's first female state representative. In the legislature, Natalie quickly established herself as another forceful advocate for the communities of her heavily rural district. Natalie serves as vice chair of the legislature's Joint Committee on Agriculture and is a member of the Joint Committees on Tourism, Arts and Cultural Development, Transportation, and Ways and Means. And my question is, what do you do in your spare time?
You're asking me where the money was.
Prior to becoming state representative, Natalie served as congressional aide to both U.S. Representative John Olver and Jim McGovern over the course of a decade. She then came to UMass, where she served as chief of staff for Chancellor Subbaswamy, and then became executive director of the Franklin County Chamber of Commerce. Clearly, Steve Kulik's successor shares that same lifelong commitment to service on behalf of the common good. Tonight, she has generously offered to share her own reflections on the legacy of her legislative predecessor and good friend. Please join me in welcoming State Representative Natalie Blais.
Thank you, Eric, for that kind introduction. And thank you all for being here to celebrate and uplift public service. I'm grateful to UMass Amherst and the Donahue Institute for hosting us this evening. And to have to say, tonight is a very strange confluence of influencers in my life. As you heard, after receiving the Cecil and Helen Rose Ethics and Communications Scholarship, I attended Emerson College and graduated from Emerson with my master's degree shortly before Lee Pelton arrived on the scene. And as Eric just mentioned, I was the chief of staff to the chancellor here, and it's so good to see so many of my old friends from Whitmore here tonight. And of course, the reason I am here is my connection to my predecessor in the State House, my mentor and friend, Steve Kulik. So many people were lucky to have known and loved Steve for so much longer than me. His wife, Susie, and his friend, Regina Curtis, being among them. I'm truly humbled to have been asked to speak today, given the enormous role that he played in my life for such a relatively short period of time during his extraordinary lifetime of public service. As I began to consider what to say this evening, I struggled. How could I possibly give voice to the consequential impact that Steve had on individuals, organizations, and state law in just 5 minutes? Like one feels with any mentor, I didn't want to let him down. So I started by turning to the texts that I shared with Steve through the years. Susie will not be surprised to hear that there were hundreds, if not thousands, of texts shared between Steve and myself. And I risked carpal tunnel injury before getting to our very first text in January of 2018. But in scrolling through those texts, I was reminded of how Steve was always there for so many of us. No question was too small, no policy too difficult to explain. He was steadfast and constant and kind. After reviewing our texts, I turned to the internet, where everybody goes, and the online tributes to his legacy were numerous. The Massachusetts Municipal Association, the Worthington School Committee, the Hilltown CDC, the Community Preservation Coalition, the Prostate Cancer Action Council, communities involved in sustaining agriculture. The list went on and on and on. The organizations paying tribute to Steve spanned so many different topic areas, and in reviewing their notes of gratitude, I was reminded of the breadth of Steve's impact during his 25 years in the State House. He meant so much to so many people, including his constituents. Steve took great pride in working to address the rural and small town issues facing the residents he was privileged to serve. He fought for equity for these communities and state policies that would allow them to address the challenges they were facing and take advantage of the opportunities that were available to them. Steve's legacy has left an indelible mark on our great Commonwealth. He had an essential role in advancing many of the programs, policies, and laws that support agriculture and our local food system. He helped to mold infrastructure programs so that they actually serve small towns. He fought to ensure that children attending rural schools received the same opportunities as their counterparts in more urban communities. He worked across the aisle to build support for the preservation of open space, and he fought like hell to finally bring broadband to communities that had none just 5 short years ago. Reflecting on the causes that he championed, I can see now that Steve was ahead of his time. Some of you may know that when a rep leaves the House, they give a farewell address in the chamber. Steve's was masterful, and I have no doubt it was proofread by Susie Kulik. But as we sit here tonight celebrating his public service, I felt it appropriate to share his final words of inspiration to his colleagues in light of the challenges that remained ahead. Steve said, "I have full confidence that you will collectively tackle these challenges with hard work, intelligence, and always with the best interests of the people of the Commonwealth foremost in your minds." Hard work, intelligence, being driven by the interests of the people you're serving. Steve Kulik epitomized these traits. And little did he know how he taught all of us through his own words and his own actions, just by being Steve, how to be true public servants. I'm honored to be here tonight to honor his legacy.
To present the award to Suzanne, Susie? I never called you Susie. I'd like to ask Johan to come up. I'd also like to ask Suzanne's former colleagues in the leadership of the Donahue Institute, Lynn Griesmer, former executive director, and John Klanakis, former deputy director, to come up to present this award to Suzanne. You all need to know that Suzanne is here because we promised she wouldn't have to say anything. But she can say something.
That's lovely. You gonna read it?
UMass Amherst Donahue Institute, in recognition of Stephen Kulik for his lifelong commitment to public service on behalf of the residents and communities of Massachusetts. The impact of his work will serve as his legacy for generations to come. Shall we do a photo of the leaf?
Thank you. That's really nice. I know Steve would have loved it, and of course, it's particularly meaningful to me because of my long relationship with the Donahue Institute. You know, Stephen and I were both the children of public servants, and it's something that came very easily to him. I always felt grateful that I could spend my life with a man who found the job he was meant to do and was so happy doing it. And I want to say to Natalie that in the last few difficult years of his life, a real bright spot was watching Natalie take over the First Franklin District and do such a great job. So thank you, Natalie. Thank you to all of you. And here's to Steve.
It is my honor to introduce the second biannual Maurice Donahue Public Service Award to Lee Pelton. The UMass Amherst Donahue Institute Public Service Award recognizes a currently active public service leader in Massachusetts. The award recipient has made significant professional contributions in the interests of public service and the public good. This can include, but is not limited to, a willingness to take risks to achieve change, fostering a more democratic society, serving as a champion of racial and social equity, changing a governmental or nonprofit organization's operations so that it better serves its goals and the people, achieving substantial savings in government and developing other public service and government leaders. Lee Pelton meets and exceeds all these criteria, and the nominating committee was unanimous in their decision. As many of you may be aware, Lee Pelton is currently the CEO and president of the Boston Foundation, one of the nation's leading philanthropic organizations with $1.8 billion in assets. He joined the foundation in June 2021 after serving as president of Emerson College from 2011 to 2021 and Willamette University from 1998 through 2011. In May of 2023, Lee ranked number 3 on Boston Magazine's annual list of the most influential people in Boston, following Maura Healey, the newly elected governor of the Commonwealth, and Massachusetts Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Mr. Pelton has positioned the Boston Foundation, one of the nation's first and most influential community foundations, as an agent for social change by centering equity in its programs, grant-making, and civic leadership. Under his leadership, the Foundation's defining ambition is to achieve equity, which first involves acknowledging and then seeking to eliminate the structural and underlying causes of outcome disparities for historically marginalized communities. The signature Boston Foundation program is its Racial Wealth Partnership, established in late 2022 as part of the Foundation's commitment to close racial wealth gaps in Greater Boston and the region by expanding home ownership by people of color. The partnership is a broad-based group of more than 40 members representing sectors including banking and finance, housing, issue advocacy, government, healthcare, the life sciences, and education. Now, as a college president for 23 years, Lee led with a core belief that higher education must serve to deepen students' appreciation of the humanities. He believes that the nation still looks to colleges and universities to solve its most pressing problems, and as such, colleges and university presidents have an obligation, in addition to broad mission-driven duties on their campuses, to engage in the larger society. To Pelton, nurturing the humanistic spirit also goes hand in hand with confronting and trying to solve the urgent moral and social problems of the moment. Lee has combined authentic leadership, civic engagement, and a deep, deep commitment to social justice with his skill and vision for growing institutional capacity and effectiveness. The result has been a legacy of stronger, more diverse institutions that have expanded opportunities for students and others. Lee often has been recognized as a civic and education leader both regionally and nationally. While he was a college president, he emerged as a powerful national voice on social issues and the value of liberal arts education. In the aftermath of the Sandy Hook mass shooting, Lee took the initiative to gather over 250 college and university presidents to sign a letter asking President Obama to assist in establishing common sense gun legislation. He has been active nationally and has written widely in support of affirmative action, beginning with the 2003 Michigan University and Law Supreme Court cases. Lee has also advocated for college and prison initiatives, seeing firsthand at Emerson College prisoners' education programs that policy inadequacies hampered their effectiveness. Please join me in welcoming Lee to the stage to accept the second Maurice Donahue Public Service Award. Lee. There you go, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. She probably wants a photo. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know, is the chancellor still here? Yeah, you're still here. So, listen, thank you for those very kind words earlier. And as someone who's been a president for almost a quarter of a century, I want to welcome you into this wonderful, position. And very pleased that you are. When Bart Giamatti stepped down as president from Yale, he said that being a college president is no way for an adult to make a living. And it certainly feels that way at times, though I must say I'm reminded of what really keeps me motivated. And it's these wonderful students, just remarkable. And that I will miss. Dear Chancellor, I want to tell you a story about a president who was recently inaugurated. And after his inauguration, he and several faculty members, as part of the celebration, rode out from the shores. There was a beautiful pond in the middle of the campus, and they rode out from the shore to the pond for a picnic. And when they got to the little island in the middle of the pond to have the picnic, they realized that they had left the picnic basket on the shore. So the newly inaugurated president got up
walked across the water, picked up the picnic basket, and proceeded to bring it back to where the faculty were. And one faculty member said, "Wouldn't you just know it? We just hired a president who can't swim." So there you go. I thank you all, and I want to thank also to the selection committee and the entire UMass Amherst Donahue Institute. It's an honor, a real honor to be with you here tonight. I was joking with someone the other week about how these awards are usually given to people with lifelong experiences. That is to say, people of a certain age. And then I was heartened to discover that the criteria for this award stipulates the award must go to someone who is currently an active public service leader in Massachusetts. So I appreciate you honoring both my contributions, former contributions, as well as my current and future contributions. I'm also very proud to be the recipient of an award that carries with it the name and contributions of the late Senator Maurice Donahue, who before joining UMass Amherst as a faculty member and founding of this institute, served as a state senator for 21 years, 7 of those years as president. He is often referred to as a legislator of uncommon integrity, and he's known especially for his work to help shape our higher education system. And many of us here tonight know that it was his bill, along with Senator Robert Quinn, that established the University of Massachusetts in Boston, for which we are so very grateful. And through his work, dedication, and service, he planted seeds of growth which have taken root and continue to grow today. He wonderfully catalyzed action and entrepreneurial thinking, and would no doubt be incredibly proud that the Institute, which bears his name, remains committed to its values and its work to advance equity and social justice, to foster healthy communities and support inclusive economies, all aimed at alleviating poverty and promoting opportunity. You know, Jane Addams, who devoted her wealth and life to the Whole House, a famous settlement for social service in Chicago, spoke about moral leadership almost a century ago. She says, "Then when we come to the study of great persons, it is easy to think only of their great deeds and not to think enough of their spirit. What is a great person who has made their mark upon history? Every time, if we think far enough, it is a person who has looked through the confusion of the moment and has seen the moral issues involved. They are someone who has refused to have their sense of justice distorted. They have listened to their conscience until conscience becomes a trumpet call to like-minded people so that they gather about them and together and with mutual purpose and aid make a new period in history." And Senator Donahue led with the moral compass because he understood that moral leadership at its core is the capacity to inspire others to virtuous action and to engage in something larger than themselves. And I believe that a committed life is to be civically engaged. For there is no more important question in life than how do I live my life with meaning, with purpose, and with hope. And no more important answer than that which Plato gave, that no evil can happen to a good person, either in life or after death. Now, my own story is a familiar one. In 1954, when the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education that segregated schools were unconstitutional, I was a 4-year-old kid from a poor working class family in a foreign country called Kansas. I grew up in a house without indoor plumbing until I was 6 years old, as did my father for most of his life. I would enter kindergarten in the fall. I lived on a street that divided 2 distinct neighborhoods, poor African Americans to the south and middle class whites to the north.
And many of the homes in the African American neighborhood were what we called shotgun houses. That is to say, if you're standing in the front yard with the front and back door open, you could fire a shotgun clean through them to the backyard. Most of the kids in this part of my neighborhood came from families of laborers like my father, who worked as a butcher at a meatpacking plant, and like my mother and both of my grandmothers, who, until they died, cleaned houses for middle-class and rich white families. My great-grandparents made a meager living as sharecroppers near Little Rock, Arkansas, where important civil rights battles over the soul and dignity of this nation were waged. And when I was a child, my parents taught my sisters and me this simple way of being in the world. Where you see a wrong, right it. Where you see a hurt, soothe it. Where you see a broken heart, mend it. And this has been my guide star for every day of my life. In Democracy in America, Alexis de Tocqueville wrote that, "I confess that I believe that democratic societies to have much less to fear from boldness than from paltriness of aim. The leaders of the new society would do wrong if they tried to send their citizens to sleep in a state of happiness too uniform and peaceful, but that they should sometime give them difficult and dangerous problems to face, to rouse ambition and give it a field of action." And we live in an age in which paltriness of aim will simply not do. The full embodiment of our shared civic engagement and leadership means seizing the moment, choosing to be innovative, to be daring and bold as we seek, in the words of Langston Hughes, to let America be America again, the land that never has been yet must be. In 1916, John Dewey described democracy as the most ethical aspiration conceived by ethical communities. This aspiration was unattainable, he wrote, without a society's commitment to a lifelong education to develop the capacities for associated living in a society characterized by complexity and diversity. And as a nation committed to equality and social justice, our hope is that out of the rich diversity of human experience, we may create communities of learning, communities made both beautiful and effective by their pluralism, communities of learning that will turn the tide of human want into a sea of joy and light. Because we must find what binds us all together in common hope and common need, not what divides us. Because we may or may not all come to love one another, but to be part of the best of this place, we must have the moral courage to respect one another. This is a great American dream, not the kind of dream that is available only to those privileged by history or family income or wealthy neighborhoods. Not the kind of dream that is built on narrow self-interest, but rather a compelling vision of what we could be if we were truly open to the best that is known and thought in the world. The kind of dream which will swing open wide the doors of opportunity, which sets the table for all to enjoy life's bounty, which holds our nation's motto, E pluribus unum, out of the many, one, as a living creed. So I want to thank you for listening to me, and thank you even more for your own valiant efforts to keep this dream alive in your work. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Pete, thank you for these inspiring words. So now it's a moment where I can say, enjoy each other, enjoy more food, have a drink, mingle, and join us in celebrating these wonderful folks that we've had a chance to feature here tonight. So thank you for coming. We so appreciate it, and enjoy some more time.